Identity is the script that speaks before you do, by Jason Gray. January 4th, 2026, 6026, Anno Lucis, in the year of light. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Most people believe they are living their life. They are not. They are living from an identity, a pre-written script formed long before they had the awareness or authority to question it. That script speaks first. It decides tone, posture, meaning, and response before presence ever arrives. Identity answers before you do. This is why so much of life feels automatic, why reactions feel inevitable, why the same conflicts repeat with different faces. Identity is not who you are. Identity is what was built to keep you safe, accepted, or intact in an earlier environment. It is a solution that outlived the problem. Identity forms early and silently. It is assembled from what earned approval, what avoided punishment, what reduced pain, and what created belonging. Over time, these adaptations harden into a sense of me. And once hardened, identity does not wait for truth. It reacts. Someone challenges you, and identity defends. Someone misunderstands you, and identity tightens. Someone withdraws, and identity panics, or withdraws first. Before the moment is even registered clearly, identity has already decided what this means. This is the fracture. Identity collapses the present into memory. The moment is no longer met as it is. It is filtered through what has happened before, through old wounds, through unfinished emotional business, through conclusions you reached when you were younger and never revisited. Identity does not ask, what is happening? Identity asks, what does this say about me? Once that question is asked, reality is no longer in charge. This is why neutral moments become emotional events, why simple feedback becomes an attack, why silence becomes rejection, why boundaries become betrayal. Identity personalizes everything, not because everything is personal, but because identity survives by being relevant. It must insert itself into the moment to justify its continued existence. Identity's purpose is not truth. Its purpose is continuity. It wants the story to remain intact. It wants the role to stay consistent. It wants the self-image to be defended at any cost. Even if the story is painful, even if the role is exhausting, even if the self-image is false. Identity would rather be right than free, familiar than accurate, defended than honest. This is why people remain loyal to identities that make them miserable. Abandoning identity feels like danger. It feels like losing ground. It feels like exposure. Identity convinces you that without it, you will disappear. But what actually disappears is the noise. Identity creates a constant internal pressure to manage perception, to be seen correctly, to be understood, to be justified, to be validated, to not be diminished. This is exhausting, not because life is inherently overwhelming, but because identity maintenance is relentless. Every interaction becomes a subtle performance. Every disagreement becomes a threat. Every misunderstanding becomes something that must be corrected immediately. Identity turns life into a courtroom. The verdict is never final. This is why reaction follows identity so closely. Reaction is identity protecting itself in real time. It is the reflexive move to restore the story, the image, the position. Reaction feels urgent because identity feels endangered. The danger is not real. It is remembered. The reorientation begins the moment identity is seen. not fought, not rejected, not healed, seen. The instant you notice the script activating, its tone, its urgency, its familiar emotional posture, you are no longer fully inside it. Awareness creates separation. Separation creates choice. This is the most important moment of the day. In that moment, you can refuse to answer as the identity. You can let the sensation rise without acting on it. You can let the thought form without obeying it. You can let the story appear without continuing it. This is not suppression. This is authorship. Authorship means the response comes after presence arrives. When you pause, identity loses leverage. Its voice may still speak, but it no longer commands. You regain the ability to ask a different question. Not how does this affect me, but what is actually true here? Not how do I protect my image, but what is the cleanest response? Not what does this say about me, but what does this require, if anything? This is where power returns, not as dominance, not as control over others, but as internal authority. When presence leads, reaction slows. When reaction slows, clarity emerges. When clarity emerges, unnecessary suffering ends. Identity does not need to be destroyed. It needs to be put in its proper place. Identity is a tool. Presence is the one who uses it. When identity rules, life is heavy. When presence leads, life becomes exact. You speak less. Your words carry weight. You act less. Your actions land. You stop narrating yourself in every moment. You stop turning life into a referendum on your worth. You meet reality directly. This is what maturity feels like. Not certainty, not confidence, not a better story. The ability to be here without armor. The moment you stop answering as the identity, your life finally begins to answer to you. Jason Gray. That, I think, is an important piece for people to be exposed to in our world today, because our culture, especially in the West, has just become so identity-oriented, and it's really corroded society and corroded people's sense of self-worth. I know that as a teenager, I didn't feel good enough or smart enough or beautiful enough, and I even remember thinking to myself that if I can't be beautiful, I'd rather die. And I know that that sense has, or that idea has only increased in adolescents and teenagers in the world today, you know, some 20-something years later after I was experiencing that. And it makes my heart sad for all those girls and boys that feel that way, because as a teenager, it feels so important how you look, and it seems to be like the most important thing, because that's seen as how the world judges people. But as I've aged and come to experience more life, I've realized that that is not how I am judged the most. It might be people's initial reaction to me is based off of how I look, but I've come to see that so much more of how I'm seen in the world is how I respond and how I behave and how I love and what I give, how kind I am. Those things make up who I am, and the more that I can embody that kindness and embody gratitude and recognize my blessings, then I've realized that the more beautiful I become. And people who are so focused on external beauty, I think sometimes don't focus enough on internal beauty, and that's where real beauty comes from. So thank you for being here with me today, and I hope you feel beautiful, because you are.